So I recently bought a MacBook Pro M1 from the year 2020 and it's currently 3 years old. With the first time we saw the Apple Silicon M1 chip was inside this lineup of computers. The 2020 lineup consisted of the MacBook Pro, the MacBook Air, the Mac Mini, and then eventually it started to move towards the complete transition to Apple Silicon with the iMac, the Mac Studio, and even the iPad Pro lineup. They went on to expand the M1 Pro and M1 Max. Fast forward to today, we are at the M2 age and we never thought we would see computers become this powerful. These are the chips that professionals, video editors, animators, audio engineers, and everyone who is a heavy user needs. But what about an average consumer? Not everyone thinks that they need to blow a lot of money for a computer when they're a light user or someone that does light browsing and writing. If you don't want to spend a minimum of $1,000 on a MacBook Air, here's a budget solution. So this is the 13-inch 2015 MacBook Air. Weighing in at just under 3 pounds, this machine was light, portable, and featured the design from 2008. This design was revolutionary and showed just how thin and light a computer could be. The MacBook Air was recognizable from its all-aluminum, wedged-shaped design and was a little over a centimeter in thickness. When you look at the computer, the MacBook Air had a 13.3-inch LED widescreen display with a native 1440 by 900 resolution. It supported a 16 by 10 and 4 by 3 aspect ratio. As far as the base storage goes, it comes with 128 gigabytes and 256 gigabytes of storage, and it was configurable all the way up to 512. Comparing that to today's base stage at 256, that's not bad at all. The M2 base MacBook Air comes with 256 gigabytes of storage and 8 gigabytes of RAM. And of course, you can always add more storage and RAM, but it'll end up costing you a lot of money. For example, adding 16 gigabytes of RAM is $200, which alone is a lot of money. Plus upgrading to a half terabyte is $200 as well. For that price, you're just $300 shy of a MacBook Pro with a ProMotion display, extra ports, and an overall better package. So to connect your MacBook to everything, here's what came on the MacBook. It came with a Thunderbolt 2 port, came with 2 USB 3 ports, and it came with an SD card slot along with the MagSafe charging port and the headphone jack, which it's already more than what I've got on my MacBook. I have 2 USB-C ports and a headphone jack. I have to buy an adapter, but that's okay because they brought it back on the new computers. They brought back all the nice ports, and I honestly might have to upgrade if I'm going to continue doing YouTube. You never know. But anyways, real day-to-day use, I've been using this computer for a couple of days now, and when I'm not editing a video or doing something along those lines, it works pretty good. It won't be as quick as you could want it to be, like for example my MacBook Pro, but it'll still be good. Opening Safari and browsing YouTube is, like I said, quick enough, and you won't be running into any troubles of any kind. As far as my use, I haven't seen any stuttering or any frame drops or any kind of performance issues. But since it is running the latest version that it could, the Monterey macOS software version, you still have features that are on some of the newer models and the system still runs smooth. I can multitask, do some reading, I can write, and I can edit videos using CapCut for Mac. On the subject of editing, I created a video for school, and while creating it, I didn't run into any major issues. Editing can be a demanding task, so even if there were any slight stutters or performance issues, it would be completely understandable, but to my surprise, it did good. One important thing on a computer is the battery life. The battery on this computer has aged, but the battery on the MacBook is still better than on some Windows laptops, especially heavy use laptops with dedicated GPUs and everything. But I would still get around 8-ish hours of screen on time during school, and then I'd go home to charge it. But this is used, and you can find refurbished laptops with better batteries, and we have owned this laptop since 2016 and it has aged, but like I said, you can buy a refurbished one with a new battery and in better condition. Originally, it could do about 12 hours of web browsing and 12 hours of movie playback. The battery was a built-in 54 watt-hour lithium polymer battery with the 45 watt MagSafe charger. Now, comparing this to the most recent MacBook Air, the battery life has definitely improved as it should be with the past 8 years of advancements in technology, as a 13-inch MacBook Air M2 has a claimed 18 hours of battery life. Another important feature on the computer is obviously the keyboard. The keyboard is still great. It isn't the magic keyboard that we all have on our laptops now, but overall the feel of the keyboard is still amazing, and I can compare it to some of the keyboards on some laptops that you can find for this price. It's responsive, the travel is good, it's backlit, and it has a function row, unlike my MacBook, which has the touch bar, which honestly I don't even really use, to be honest, but it's useful in some cases, like my Notes app and YouTube. I can do that, but other than that it doesn't really have any use. Now, another thing is the trackpad. Compared to the current trackpad that's on the newer M2 MacBooks, the trackpad is still great. Obviously, the trackpads that we have right now are amazing and best in class, but the trackpad here is still great, and it's even better than on some of the budget Windows laptops and Chromebooks that you can buy today. You can perform gestures, it responds to multi-touch presses, it's responsive, and it has a satisfying smooth feel, and it is all over a great one to use, and there are no complaints from my end. So we're on the current version of macOS, which is macOS Ventura, and this laptop is on macOS Monterey, which I believe it's its last major update. I believe there will be security updates, I'm not sure, but I am surprised that this thing went 7 years until it stopped getting major software updates. macOS Monterey runs smooth like mentioned before, and this laptop doesn't see much heavy use, as it is really only used for browsing, watching content, reading articles, and that's about it. So we already talked about the screen, and it's not as good as modern laptops, but once again it did come out 8 years ago and it does good enough. It's an LED widescreen, unlike the liquid retina displays that we see today, but the viewing angles are different. They're not as good as the one on my computer right now. This is a liquid retina display, but the viewing angles here are like, they're not great, and you can still see pixels, and obviously it's great to see that now we have improved so much, but this screen is, like I said, not as good, but it'll get the job done if you're just doing some browsing and simple tasks, of course. The speakers on this laptop aren't the best by any means, but it's not as good as my MacBook Pro either, but they do alright. And since nowadays people everywhere are using their own AirPods or headphones or earbuds or whatever to listen to music or watch content with, I don't think it matters that much anyways, but here's a comparison so you know what I mean. So for this next part, I'm going to have both laptops at full volume. I'm going to play this song, and then you guys are going to let me know which is better. I'm letting you know right now, it's probably going to be the MacBook Pro compared to this MacBook Air. Okay, so I have the volume all the way up here, and now we are going to hit play. These are both from 20 seconds. It's going to be the same song. Alright, so that is the MacBook Air. Here is the MacBook Pro. So yeah, it's not as good, but like I said, it does just enough, and like I said again, people everywhere are using their own AirPods, earbuds, headphones, whatever. But yeah, it still does good if you're just wanting to watch Netflix. It does alright, but nothing like we have today. Since I have it here already, I'm just gonna compare this to my MacBook Pro. So starting with the overall design, the 2016 through 2020 MacBook series didn't have the best reputation when it came to design choices, like the touch bar, the lack of I/O ports, and how little there was to work with. People didn't want to upgrade from the 2015 MacBook Pro because of the lack in the I/O department. My MacBook Pro has 2 Thunderbolt ports and 1 headphone jack. So Apple thought minimal and gave it to the consumers, which, if you saw my previous video, I had to buy many accessories for my MacBook to be able to connect it to a mouse and keyboard. Anyways, the amount of I/O on the MacBook Air is still pretty good, as you have a headphone jack and an SD card reader, MagSafe, which is already more than what I have on my laptop. Oh, and you also have the function keys, I almost forgot. Which, to be honest, I'm glad they brought back for the newer models, but I would have to spend a whole lot more on a Pro model. But anyways, the laptop is still good in the I/O department, and it's great. And it's also worth to mention that the MagSafe and the SD card slot and the Thunderbolt 2 and all that is outdated, as everything is now moving on to USB-C and on Thunderbolt 4. But it's still very good, and the SD card slot reader may not be as fast as the one that we have on the new MacBook Pro, but that's just something worth to mention. Size wise, it is bigger than my laptop, with the bezels being bigger. The keys are a little bit more spaced out, but my laptop weighs more than the Air at 3 pounds exactly. Now, it's not fair that I'm comparing the 8-year-old laptop to the newer ones that we see today, but I'm still going to do it to see what we're going up against in 2023. So, the CPU is an Intel Core i5 dual core versus the M2 8-core 4 performance 4 efficiency cores that we see on the MacBook Air M2. GPU is the Intel HD Graphics 6000 versus the Apple M2 base chip with 8 cores and the 16-core neural engine. RAM, we're working with 4 and 8 gigabytes versus 8, 16, and 24. And the storage is 128 all the way up to 512 versus 256 gigabytes all the way up to 2 terabytes. So you tell me, would you buy this laptop at $250-ish? Let me know in the comments down below. Let me know how you think it performs in 2023 and what you would think if you bought this. If you guys like this content and if you'd like to see more, please make sure to like and subscribe for more content, as I am trying to push out as many videos as I can. If you would like to support us, liking and subscribing would just do that, and we will take care of the rest and try and push out content. Thank you guys for watching, and I appreciate you guys.